This is the 2023 Federal Congress of the Democratic Alliance. Only a strong DA can uphold the values of freedom, fairness, opportunity, and diversity. A strong DA to build a better future. Welcome to the Democratic Alliance's Federal Congress.
Good morning, South Africa. Goeiemôre, Molweni, Sawubona, and a very warm welcome to the second and final day of the DA's Federal Congress 2023, where we are building a strong DA for a better future. My name is Nazli Sharif, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, Regan Allen.
What's up, Naz? The atmosphere is thrilling here. For those that have just joined us for the very first time this weekend, Federal Congress is the DA's highest decision-making body. We have more than 2,000 delegates here from all 9 provinces across our beautiful country. We are here to convene and to elect our leadership, amend the party's constitution, and adopt resolutions that will pave the way for a better future for South Africa.
Yesterday was jam-packed with live entertainment, speeches from our leadership candidates, and a host of DA constitutional amendments. I hope you are as excited as we are to get things going. Remember, this is your Congress. So please follow along with us today and make sure to like and share this broadcast. Join the conversation using hashtag DA Congress 2023. We would love to hear what you have to say.
And speaking of getting everyone involved, joining us in studio, we have Solly Malatsi, the DA's national spokesperson, Geordin van der Winde, the mayor of Stellenbosch, as well as the premier of the Western Cape, Winde, and executive mayor in the city of Cape Town, Geordin Hill-Lewis, GHL. Welcome to the studio, everyone. Solly, if I can jump in straight away, the atmosphere is crazy, it's amazing. Following yesterday, how are you feeling?
Thanks very much, Regan. I'm excited about Congress, and as you could tell, yesterday there was a lot of energy, a lot of vibe, and because we haven't had a Congress in person in a long time, it was a reunion of old friends and old colleagues, and as the cool kids say, it was a major vibe, and we're looking forward to today. You know, today is a shorter day, but it's an even more exciting day because we'll get the policy resolutions that will be happening shortly, and also the results for the new leadership that will be elected.
It's exciting times.
Okay, kan ek gou sê ek is 'n derde termyn burgemeester en om hier te wees is een van die ongelooflikste ervarings. I can feel the excitement, the energy, the commitment. This is a wow conference. Thank you so much everybody. We're going forward.
Yes.
Premier.
Yeah, I mean, the vibe here is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think what really stands out for me is it's the vibe, but it's also the professionalism. It's the on time. It's the real, this shows you how we govern. And of course, if we can't run a Congress like that, how are we supposed to run a country like that? And that really stands out for me.
And just for confirmation, the seats is not stuck to the floor. No seat has been thrown away because we do stuff in a professional way. GHL, how are you feeling?
It has been an incredible conference so far. The vibe has been amazing. You know, I've attended conferences before where there's a lot of people going in and out all day, but people have been glued to this program because it has been so jam-packed with great content. We've just a few minutes ago, Regan, I don't know if you heard, had an amazing speech by the Premier of the Western Cape to the whole Congress, and so many others besides. And now we're getting into the policy resolution stage. Just a couple of hours to go, of course, until we hear those election results.
Those election results, we're so excited. Make sure you stay on the broadcast to see who our elected leadership is. Premier Winde, the Western Cape is the only province in the entire country run by the DA. Can you tell us why does and how the Western Cape stands out in comparison to the other 8 ANC-run provinces?
Yeah, so normally people say to me when we come and visit the Western Cape, they say, wow, this feels like a different country. I say to them, we can actually make the whole country feel like this. And that's what this Congress is about. It's about saying, this is what we do, policy in action. They're busy behind us, busy working on policy amendments, because we are the place that tests that policy. And so where we govern in our municipalities and in this province, we take those policies, and those policies really make a difference in people's lives. And we have the honor and the privilege to be able to change someone's life, to be able to create an ecosystem that allows opportunity, that allows people to live lives they value. And that for me is the really exciting part about, the citizens and the voters of the Western Cape made this choice many years ago. And we've now had years of that opportunity, and that's why people say it looks like a different country.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, of course, after next year, that's going to be the voters' chance to really bring about change in South Africa. And how do we get our voters to understand that, in actual fact, Gauteng can actually do that as well. We can actually change Gauteng, or the Northern Cape, or Limpopo. And I think most importantly, we can actually change South Africa.
Absolutely, we can.
Yesterday, Geordin, you delivered an amazing speech as well. And we've heard of the challenges facing our country. But then you mentioned how the city of Cape Town is protecting residents against rolling blackouts, and how Eskom has basically tormented our entire economy. Are you able to share more?
That's so right, Regan. Life is getting harder in South Africa for many people. More and more people are finding it harder to find work, and they're slipping into poverty. And the main reason, there's lots of other reasons, but the main reason for that, Regan, is load shedding. And in Cape Town and in the Western Cape, in Stellenbosch, and many other DA-governed municipalities, we are saying we are not going to accept that rolling blackouts and load shedding is a permanent part of our future. We are going to do something about it, because we know that that is the most important way that we can lift people out of poverty and get them into work, get our economy growing. So in Cape Town, we are so proud to already protect people from one stage of load shedding all the time, and 2 stages of load shedding some of the time when we can. We want to move that through to 2 stages all of the time, then 3 stages all of the time, then 4 stages all of the time, and eventually to say goodbye to load shedding forever. And the way we're doing that simply is by buying independent power from sources outside of Eskom. We know that Eskom cannot do the job. There's a new minister, there's new plans, there's new management. The fact is, nothing's changing. Same old, same old. We have got to do it ourselves, and we are doing that by buying power from independent suppliers, by allowing homes and businesses to sell their power to the city and get paid for it. Still the only city that I'm aware of in Africa doing that, by giving every household incentives to save power, what we call power heroes. So contributing to load shedding is not only for the rich, if you can afford a solar panel, it's for every single household. That's going to roll out. So we've got a full plan to stop load shedding, and I think we're on track.
Yeah, it's about innovation and coming up with new ways of doing things. Speaking about that, Mayor Geesi, we hear that Stellenbosch is on track to become the first load shedding free municipality. Hoe gaan dinge daar?
Het gaan uitstekend. En ons het altyd die vriendelike kompetisie met die burgemeester van Kaapstad. Wie gaan eers wees? Ons almal werk daarnaartoe. In 2018, when we start to see the devastating effect of load shedding on our economy and our residents, we said genoeg is genoeg. Enough is enough. And we start with determination, a program and a plan with the CSIR and University of Stellenbosch to minimize and eradicate load shedding. Solar panels, wind farms, buying electricity from independent producers, methane mining, and yes, we're doing excellently. Ek het onlangs, so 'n jaar gelede, al ons solar panels aangestel op die dakke van ons munisipale geboue. We are really progressing steadily. And we're encouraging everybody in Stellenbosch to also contribute and produce own energy and feed it back to us. So dit gaan baie goed en burgemeester, jy moet maar wag om te kyk wie gaan eerste wees. Maar ons werk baie hard met commitment to make the difference.
The competition is indeed very healthy, and it's towards making sure our residents actually benefit.
Don't forget, there's other municipalities as well. There's a big race across the province.
Yes.
And for me, it's exciting because imagine we actually get this whole province load shedding free. And that's our target. We want 5,700 megawatts over the next years in the province. That means we're totally independent of Eskom. Eskom, I still think, will probably play a role because it's a balancing factor, but we will have sufficient private sector investment across all of our municipalities to make sure that, to make sure we load shedding free, we've got energy for the future and for the economy, and of course the competitiveness of the private sector is going to make sure we've got low prices. I saw the Eastern Cape big solar panel tender went out, and a concentrated solar was coming in at 7 cents a megawatt hour, a kilowatt hour, 7 cents a kilowatt hour. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So we are going to see great competitive prices coming in through all of the private sector coming in.
But
And
really,
really,
we must acknowledge
Yeah.
our Premier for assisting us and also giving resource to us. To be in a DA province is absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Premier, for that.
Yeah. So again, this is what stands out for me. The partnerships that both cities are working on and also trying to relieve pressure off the grid by incentivizing businesses and residents to get off the grid. And it just shows the synergy that you can get when you've got similar governments at provincial level and at city level.
Exactly.
DA governments racing towards
Yeah.
solutions, whereas ANC governments are racing towards further decay.
Yeah?
That's right.
And we've heard during your speech now, Premier, you highlighted some of those successes since 2009. What can DA governments, incoming DA governments in Gauteng, in KZN, or in the Eastern Cape look forward to should they vote for the DA?
Yeah, thanks, Regan. I think, obviously we've just had an energy discussion, and that seems to be what we're focusing on. But we've been focusing on safety now for a few
Yeah.
years. We want devolution of power. We want to be able to make decisions around policing at local government level. We don't want to be able to, we don't want Pretoria deciding where deployment happens or how many police officers are in a police station. They don't even have a clue where it is. So we must be able to make those decisions. And what we've done while we fight for devolution of power, what we've done in partnership, again, partnership between the city of Cape Town and the province, where we're deploying officers to the murder hotspots. So we are doing exactly the opposite to what the national government is doing. They just kind of place wherever. There's no strategy behind it. There's no evidence and data.
That's right.
We use evidence and data. We take which are the murder hotspots. We've only put 1,300 officers on the ground at the city level, and we come along with some funding and some strategy. And what happens now? We start to see a reduction in murder rate.
Yep.
Now, nowhere else do you see that in the country. Only in these areas. Surely that's a no-brainer. And then, of course, I'm just talking about safety, but it's about health, it's about education, it's about good governance and getting the basics right, saying no to corruption. Corruption steals from the poorest of the poor.
Yeah.
When you get your governance right and your clean audits, for me, I always say clean audits and good governance is a habit. We just do it. Then what happens is you focus on the service delivery. So that's what happens when voters decide they want change. They give our policies and our government's chances, and the proof is in the pudding. You can see it. You can see the difference. And that's what people say to me always, wow, this is a different country. You can have that country too in any province in South Africa if you change the ANC with the DA. Put the DA in power, 2024.
Yeah. It is clear that where the DA governs with an outright majority, things get done. This Congress is all about building a strong DA for a better future, because it is only a strong DA that can end load shedding in South Africa. It is only a strong DA that can create jobs, and it is only a strong DA that can fight crime and corruption. Geordin, since your election of the mayor of Cape Town, you spoke about bringing hope into Cape Town and making Cape Town the city of hope. We then heard President Ramaphosa begging the people of South Africa to have hope.
Yes.
What is the difference between actually giving people hope and pipe dreams?
Yeah, that's a great question, because hope is an easy word to throw around, Naz, but it's a difficult word to actually make meaningful in people's lives, and we are focusing on that. We are trying to build hope by actually showing improvement in the lives of people, particularly in our poorest communities, in townships, on the Cape Flats, by improving basic services, by getting people into work, by growing our economy, by investing in infrastructure, as Alan has said, by making your community safer so your kids can play outside. Those are things that actually build tangible, real hope They give people a sense that this is a good place to live. This is a good place to raise my kids. That my kids will have a better future than I had. They will have opportunity. They will have safety. That is what hope comes from. It doesn't come from just repeating the word and repeating the speech and by asking people to have hope and by talking about a new dawn. The ANC and the president are very good at those things, but what we have to do is do the hard yards of building hope in South Africa by showing people that they can be optimistic about the future. And that is what we are passionate about in DA governments. We want everyone to love South Africa. We want our country to work. We want all of our provinces, Gauteng, KZN, all of our cities, and of course our whole country to go forward. But you can only do that if you have a government that cares about building hope and not just talking about it. And that is what DA governments do.
But as if I can come in there, they often talk about hope. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is the outcome of policy and strategy being delivered on the ground, and then what happens is then hope starts to grow. And that's why Cape Town is the city of hope, the Western Cape is the province of hope, our municipalities across that province are where hope is manufactured. It's manufactured through DA policy, DA in government, and that happens over time. You bring about the change.
We have heard that we are wanting our provinces, our municipalities to work. Premier, you've also been very clear in that getting residents to work. Stats SA recently announced that 169, I'm wanting to repeat this, 169,000 jobs were created in South Africa in the last quarter. How many of those were in the Western Cape?
Regan, I love that question. I also love repeating it as well. 169,000 jobs in the whole of South Africa up until the December that quarter. And 167,000 of those jobs in the Western Cape. That doesn't just happen.
No, it doesn't.
It's not a fluke.
It doesn't happen.
It is because you are mitigating levels of load shedding, because you've got strategies over years to bring international visitors into your region. We put direct flights on as a strategy 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
We started looking at the green economy and climate change years ago. We started helping agriculture and the changes in agriculture and getting export markets, growing our exports from 45 to 55% of South Africa's exports come out of the Western Cape. So these are strategies that you put together over time. And then what happens, because you're enabling the private sector, you're enabling jobs, you're cutting red tape. Then what happens is investment comes, and entrepreneurs get the opportunity to fix so many of our challenges. And what happens then is they create those magnificent jobs, 167,000 in the Western Cape and 2,000 in all other 8 provinces put together.
You just want to get those numbers in there one more time.
Yeah, one more time. And the sad thing, the real sad thing, Gauteng is the economic hub of South Africa. 35% of our economy. We're 15% of the economy and delivering jobs like that. But Gauteng should be the economic hub of Africa.
Absolutely.
I mean, unbelievable. And we need to bring about change in Gauteng. So it's great to be at a Congress where we're talking about change, where we're engaging with our colleagues from Gauteng, where we can actually bring that change to you, the citizen in Gauteng, and to you, the citizen in other provinces in South Africa.
Yeah. Geordin, just recently you announced the City of Cape Town's budget.
Yes.
Could you give us a breakdown of some of the key items and what does this mean for the residents of Cape Town?
Naz, I am very excited. I love this budget. We announced it just on Wednesday this week. I'm also slightly nervous about it because the key anchor point of this budget is the biggest infrastructure investment budget of any city in South Africa over the last 10 years. So we are going beyond what we did for the 2010 World Cup, bigger than that. We are outspending every other city in the country on infrastructure, some cities 2 to 1. And just to break it down, Naz, this is the scary number. This is what keeps me up at night. We are going to spend 32 million rand a day on infrastructure in Cape Town every day of the year, including weekends. So we've got a lot of work to do. But it is because we are passionate about improving the lives of our poorest people. There are far too many people that still live in poverty and the indignity that comes with that. And we want to make sure that they have got better sanitation, better sewage, better water services, better access to the electricity grid, better roads, better public transport, all of that we are really passionate about delivering. And you know, so much of the failure in South African cities, when I unfortunately drive around this magnificent city, it should be, I totally agree, it should be the heartbeat of Africa's economy. And you see the degradation here in Johannesburg. It comes down to a failure to invest in infrastructure, Naz. The failure to spend and invest and build things. That's the first job of a city government, is to build things all the time for your residents. And so we are going to make sure that we are ahead of that curve in Cape Town, that we're keeping up with the growth pressure, the population pressure. We know so many people are coming to our city, and we want them to expect the same standard of excellent services, no matter who they are, no matter where they live.
Now, I don't want to hog the mic, and you must stop me. But,
please, tell
I mean,
our
what Geordin
viewers.
has just said is so very important. And for us in the province, I'm so excited that yesterday a new Department of Infrastructure came into being. The budget was passed on Wednesday last week.
Yesterday, on a Saturday.
On the 1st of April, a new, and that's not an April Fool's
yes,
joke.
it's not.
No, it's not. A new department was put in place because that's when your financial year starts.
Yep.
The Department of Infrastructure in the Western Cape for exactly that same point.
Yeah.
The Department of Infrastructure as well as the Department of Mobility, because that's also critical. You can't have traffic jams and congestion. You can't have trains that don't work. You can't have people not able to get around I mean, people do that in modern cities around the world every single day. So we've got to focus on mobility. But getting back to infrastructure, it is so critical. Now, normally a province, we have health infrastructure, education, and we're so proud of the education infrastructure during this holiday period. We were building a school of 500 learners, building a whole school in just over 60 days for 500 learners with the top-end tech in it. Unbelievable. Really getting infrastructure going. But the problem is that's provincial infrastructure. What about water?
Sure.
What about rail?
Yeah.
What about all these other big infrastructure things that are holding us back? So that's why why this Department of Infrastructure is so important. We want to bring specialists in to actually say, if government can't deliver that next dam, well, we will, if we have to go to court, get them to actually give us the programs to deliver that. We will make sure we've got to step in, because you can't have government failure holding us back. So now, as we're DA, municipalities and province, we're going to be pushing those infrastructure boundaries more than we've ever pushed before.
Yeah.
And as Geordin says, more money than ever before.
Yeah, has to be. Solly, I just want to bring you into the conversation here. Welcome to Joburg, everybody, where we learn how to swerve through potholes. I've become a pro at it, so just quick in
I've
and
actually
out.
seen it yesterday.
Yeah, he saw me do it in action yesterday. We know that the ANC controls the national budget, but DA governments are doing so much to protect its citizens. Why is this so important?
Thanks, Nestle, for that. And I think that's what makes DA governments very different. And I think there is a correlation between good governance and how people feel where they live, because they see that the government is going beyond the normal level of service delivery. If you look at what Mayor Geordin Hill-Lewis was saying in terms of the amounts of money and the long-term planning that they're investing in terms of infrastructure investment, and you look at what the province plans in having a Department of Infrastructure and a Department of Mobility, it gives residents an assurance that these are governments that are planning for the future, yet they are also keeping the basics right. And it's a thing that attracts people from different parts of the country, because it shows that both governments care about the dignity of residents in those areas. And I think that is what drives the emigration that we are seeing to the city of Cape Town and to the Western Province.
Yeah, Mayor Gyasi, we've been talking a lot about what's happening in the Western Cape, but tell us what is happening in Stellenbosch.
Now, there's so much happening, but in Stellenbosch, we are getting things done the DA way. We are really expanding a lot, and I've listened to my big neighbor, Cape Town, but we also have passed on Wednesday our biggest ever infrastructure budget. We keep on improving. Stellenbosch has 10 little towns in the municipality, and we actually improve all over. For all 10 little towns, we build infrastructure, we build house for our people. You know, people have been waiting for 30 years and more for houses. We build for them. And I'm proud to tell you that in the areas where it hasn't been built for more than 30 years, like in Ides Valley and Petersville, we are building houses. But we're not only building houses, we're giving them ownership. Also historic title deeds we're handing out because it's simply unfair that people are living in a house and they don't have ownership. Under ANC government, they received houses but never ownership. We are doing everything we can to bring the benefit, the DA benefit, to everybody living in Stellenbosch. We are so committed to that. Watch that space, Cape Town.
Cape Town, Stellis is coming for you. Sorry?
I was saying I love the competition, and I think it's the competitive spirit towards excellence that drives this government that the DA is leading to perform the way that they are doing. And I just so wish that the rest of the country could just learn from it, because best practice is something that can be used to improve the quality of lives across the country. And it's an example of what DA governments can do if we get into national power.
I must add the following. We are seeing how certain ANC governments are even trying to adopt what we are doing.
Yeah.
But we obviously know without good governance, without the people that is serving in a position to ultimately lead to better change, it won't happen. So we are definitely seeing even...
May I just come in and say, we have to acknowledge, we're always joking about this, but between the province and Cape Town, we have access as small municipalities to all the policies, all the best practice. I can phone Geordin Hill-Lewis tonight and say, please assist me. We work together. That is a difference when you have a Western Cape blue provincial government and a big brother in Cape Town. They really assist us, and I really am grateful for that.
Of course.
But Regan, I want to say that it's like co-competition. We compete with each other, but we share with each other. We work with each other. So, that's the critical part. You might be trying to get better, but you're doing it together because it's all about Team DA. But I also, while the mayor of Stellenbosch was talking, I was thinking about a time, you'll remember when Stellenbosch was run by the ANC, where it was a disaster. I mean, it was regular motions of no confidence, it was no delivery, and I'll never forget the citizens coming to see us to say, you must put them under administration. Now, that's not actually what provinces can do that easily. And in actual fact, the message to the citizens were, the power is in your hands. You can change it. And I'll never forget that meeting. And the citizens went back to Stellenbosch and they made a decision that they were going to change power or change governance in Stellenbosch. And I mean, it was unbelievable from being in opposition to being properly in power. And I mean, Gessie now runs that town with her team with a proper majority, and that really makes the difference.
Yes, Jordan, how do you feel that Stellis is competing and coming for you?
I love it. Alan calls it co-competition. It is absolutely friendly competition, but it is so important. It's so important that we feel the pressure to strive to do better, and you feel that in the DA. I don't think that you feel it in many ANC-governed municipalities around the country. They kind of just go through the motions, and it's all just go along and take what you can, and whatever.
Take more than you can.
Yeah, take more than you can. But in DA governments, we feel the pressure to perform.
Yep.
That is the culture of performance that is established in DA governments, and that's really important. So it's not just about Stellenbosch, let me say. We've now got a great, brilliant mayor in Port Elizabeth, Gqeberha.
Yes.
We've got a great DA mayor in Tshwane, the nation's capital. So they are also coming for both of us.
We're governing 15 municipalities now with outright DA mayors.
That's right.
Majority.
So
15.
So we got to feel the heat, Gessie.
I love it. It seems that the DA governments are clearly going above and beyond. And despite the ANC being in charge of national government and the national budget, as we discussed, Solly, the DA still gets things done. And talking about getting things done, did you know that my co-anchor over here, Mr. Regan Allen, happens to be the Western Cape Minister of Community Safety and Police Oversight?
Indeed.
Regan, what is the Western Cape doing to fight crime despite the absolute poor performance by SAPS?
Thank you so much. This particular role I do not take lightly, because when the Premier speaks about in our province 4,000 people being murdered, we actually see its people.
Yeah.
We actually see its families, it is communities that are being tormented as a result of crime. And like the Premier have indicated, we have stepped up. We have put budget aside to deploy LEAP officers in partnership with the City of Cape Town, because it's so vital to have partnership.
Yeah.
We have also gone further that from the 1st of April, the department is also now officially called Police Oversight and Community Safety. Because we
Amazing.
don't want to be cowards.
Yes.
We want to actually take our oversight role to lead to better service delivery, as we hold SAPS accountable as a national competency, but more importantly, making sure that we help and assist our residents to live in safer communities.
Yeah.
Our Chrysalis program, where we take young people from disadvantaged communities, and we are even placing some of those members directly into SAPS.
Yeah.
Nasli, and to the residents that are viewing, we are potentially 20 years behind in having the actual amount of SAPS officers that we need. We have placed 1,308 extra law enforcement officers into our murder hotspots, using data, using evidence, because it is not just a willy-nilly approach. It's an approach that is leading towards professional policing, so that our young people in Bannenberg, our young people in Khayelitsha, no matter where they are, can ultimately grow up in an environment and be the best that they ever can be. I grew up in Mitchell's Plain. And when you grow up in an area like Mitchell's Plain, you have seen violence, you've seen gangsterism, but there's opportunity in the Western Cape, and that is opportunity that we are wanting to bring to other parts of our country. And we know 30 million people are experiencing some form of DA government in our beautiful country, and we can actually stretch that come 2024.
Oh yes, Jordan, let's get straight into it. What is the City of Cape Town doing to go beyond its mandate to protect its citizens? Because one of the biggest things, especially being a woman in South Africa, is I'm always concerned about my safety. I'm single, I'm alone, and when I'm driving by myself late at night, it's constantly on my mind. So what are you doing in the City of Cape Town to protect residents?
So I think Alan has spoken quite a lot about the joint programs that we're doing around safety with the resources that we have. I think it's important to add, we still understand SAPS has the primary mandate for crime fighting in South Africa. They have 25,000 officers in Cape Town, probably 35, 40,000, I'm not sure, in the whole Western Cape. We have got 1,300 of our own officers that we've deployed in those crime hotspots. And you know, I want to address something head on. There's something, a narrative around the DA protecting certain kinds of residents. And if you look at the place where those officers are deployed, it's Khayelitsha, it's Philippi, it's Gugulethu, it's Hanover Park, it's Harare, it's Langa, it's Gugulethu. All of the poor communities, the township communities in our city are getting that extra protection that you spoke about. And exactly for that reason, Naz, so that women can walk to the taxi safely in the morning, so that they can get to work, so that when they arrive home from work at night, they can get home safely, so that little kids can go to school safely without getting harassed by gangsters and drug dealers. That is the kind of difference that it's making. I also just want to say, I'm sure that there are SAPS officers watching us today at home. Thank you so much for your service.
Yeah.
We do not blame SAPS officers for the poor leadership you have at a national level. Sometimes we do work with SAPS officers on the ground. Our LEAP officers go out and they work very closely together, Naz. And they find that SAPS officers are going out on duty without a bulletproof vest. They have one working vehicle between all of them. They have no ammunition in their firearms. Outrageous stuff that should never be happening in South Africa. So I have huge respect for SAPS officers who do good work. There are many of them out there in South Africa. But here, I want to come to the real thing. You introduced our co-host as the Minister for Community Safety and Police Oversight in the Western Cape, a job that he does superbly well. But the job I'd really like him to have, Naz, is to be the Western Cape Minister of Police.
Yes.
Because what we need to do is to devolve the management of police down to the provincial and local level completely. It just does not work, Naz, that a SAPS officer in Hanover Park is taking instructions from Tshwane 1,500 kilometers away. Those management, that leadership in Tshwane don't even know where Hanover Park is on the map.
Absolutely.
They certainly don't know how to police it properly on the ground. We've got to have police management close to where the issues are in the communities where those issues are. And we are showing with it, frankly, compared to SAPS, a handful of officers, we are showing the impact we can have if we can manage that police locally. So we're going to carry on fighting for that.
Yeah, keep going.
I can't believe it because I watch the WhatsApp group every single day. You can't believe how many firearms these LEAP officers are taking off the street.
Yeah.
Now, every time that firearm is taken off the street, you know someone's son is not going to get shot with that firearm.
Yep.
Someone is not going to be burying their child. It's unbelievable, and you see it every single day. But you know, we even go further than that because you've got the policing on the one side, and we've got to make sure we're using the data. We use our health data, so we know where a stabbing victim gets picked up because our ambulance picks them up. We know a shooting happens here because the ambulance picks them up. We do the autopsy in our if someone's passed on or if they go to our hospital. We have a violence prevention system, and that gives us the data that says on that street corner at that time you must have deployment. The city's got another set of innovation where they call it Shot Spotter, and you can see it gives you these GIS heat maps, so you can see that is the area where most of the shooting takes place. So you know then you must deploy to that area, and that's the kind of decision making that must happen. But then we also have to focus on violence prevention because it doesn't help to just police forever. We need to start saying why. So why are young boys becoming gangsters? What are those reasons? And how do we get in there? How do we? And I mean, the minister's got these programs, Project Chrysalis. It blows your mind when you go there and you see a young person who's. Have you been there?
Yes, I have.
You see a young person who's at risk, and suddenly they get an opportunity to learn how to weld and cook and become fit and an upstanding citizen. They get an opportunity to get a CV and work in our government for a year, and then they go out into life as a contributing citizen to the future. How do we identify those young boys who are going to go into the gangs? We want them, they're risk takers. We want them to stay in school, take a vocational path and end up as the entrepreneur because that's also a risk taker. We want them in the positive risks and not the negative risks.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of work that we're really doing behind the scenes to bring about long-term change in an ecosystem like a province or a city.
And as the Western Cape,
what stands out for me is the skewed priorities at national level. So the National Department of Police spends billions on VIP protection, which is the protection of ministers and premiers, but underinvest in putting boots on the ground. And that is why metros like the city of Cape Town and even the province work together to close the gap. That is a result of underinvestment by the South African police services.
You go to a police station in Googs or whatever, and they're under-resourced.
Yeah.
They can't even keep the lights on there, and it's just unacceptable because the person who has just had to go and report a crime is not able to do so. I mean, that's why we need to change the management.
I went to a police station in Soweto. We were doing an oversight, and they say they have to close the police station by 5 p.m. because they don't have somebody to open the gate. And if they have load shedding, the entire police station has to close because they can't open the gate. Can you imagine that, Solly?
Yeah, I mean, and even they are overburdened. I conducted some oversight visits as part of a campaign that our Shadow Minister of Police was driving. And we found out that on average, detectives, they have over 80 cases that they are dealing with. It's very difficult to secure convictions with so much workload. And that's why you'll find that they struggle with getting criminals convicted because of the shoddy work that detectives do, not because they are poor, but because they are overburdened with so many cases at once.
there you have it. We have a South African police service as a national competency that is under-resourced, understaffed, and undercapacitated.
Yep.
And we have consistently stepped up in the Western Cape. But Premier, Solly touched on it briefly. How is the ANC still hindering other processes in the Western Cape?
Well, I want to say the biggest hindrance is obviously corruption. Because what happens is when there's rampant corruption, then we don't get our fair share of the budget because the money's being stolen and not going to where it needs to go to. And I mean, I think that is probably the biggest problem. Then, of course, if I think about government, you know, I mean, we're speaking about policing and we want devolution of power because there's massive failure at an ANC national level. If I think about transport, trains, metro rail, I think about all of that. It's a massive failure. So we're saying, well, beyond our constitutional mandate, we've got to step into these failure spaces that where the ANC is failing us. I think about water and droughts and floods and climate change and how we have to mitigate risk of climate change. More water in a shorter period of time when it does rain and probably deeper and harder droughts. We don't see any investment into dams. It is just unacceptable that we don't see that big picture, long-term. What about, we're a drought region and we're impacted by climate change. We should be overly working on that mitigation. That doesn't happen. So that's why we have to now create departments of infrastructure and move into spaces that are not necessarily our mandate. It's because of that failing. And I mean, I could actually probably go through every single department. I'll maybe end with, I mean, let's talk about ports. Let's talk about home affairs.
Sure.
I promise you, that is, I think, the hindrance to economic growth and jobs. Single-handedly, that department really slows down our economy probably more than anything else.
But more than economy, right, Prem? Because I come across young people who can't even go to university because they don't have their IDs or they can't continue their empowerment because they don't have IDs. It's unacceptable.
The queues. I was listening to a guy on the radio the other day who said, I'm now my third day standing in the queue. And he said, the first day I didn't make the cutoff, the second day I didn't make the cutoff, and it looks like I'm not going to make the cutoff today again. Queuing and queue management, I mean, that's like the most basic thing to get right. If you can't get that right, how on earth can you get anything else right? So the way to fix that is actually vote in 2024. Bring change.
Yes, register and vote. If you're not registered to vote, please make sure you're registered so you can go out there and vote so that we can make a difference where you live. Mayor Giesi, on a lighter note, it's been a little bit heavy. We've been speaking about real serious issues.
Yeah.
You spoke earlier about job creation. We spoke about how and why it's so important to create jobs. But we know Stellenbosch to have amazing wine farms and restaurants and a lot of tourist activity. One of the viewers sent in a question to ask, what are some of your favorite things, Mayor, to do in Stellenbosch?
I'll be in so much trouble if I single out anyone. But naturally, yes, viewers know Stellenbosch, the beautiful winelands of Franschhoek and Stellenbosch, and the excellent wines. You know, the best white wine, the best red wine, the top 10 Shannons, whatever you want to say it. But what is important of that?
to argue.
Last week there was a ranking of the best wine routes in the country, and Stellenbosch and Franschhoek were named the first two. So we'll speak to Cape Town later on. Wow. But you know what is important on a serious note? The main driver of our economy is agriculture and tourism. The Premier told us just now, and we know that, nationally, our economy is failing. So we have to be very careful to promote our economy and create jobs. We all agree that poverty in this country is a ticking time bomb. So why is it so important to me? The beautiful winelands, the wine estate, restaurants, accommodation, all award-winning. But it creates jobs for our people. And I, as mayor, have a mayoral bursary fund to promote those jobs for young chefs, sommeliers, waiters, hospitality staff. So if the tourists come to Stellenbosch, so please come people, come and visit us. If you come to us, you actually create jobs, very much needed jobs. You stimulate our economy en alles groei, en alles raak beter. So dit is verskriklik belangrik dat die mooi goed in Stellenbosch, die lekker goed ook aangaan, want dit bring vir ons geld en werk vir ons jong mense. So
although I am from Cape Town, I got married in Stellenbosch.
Competitie.
I got married in Stellenbosch.
I have to come in
Well done, please stay else.
you know, on a lighter note, the Western Cape is the most significant, important, successful wine region in the whole of Africa. We punch right up there and hold our own with France, with California, with everywhere. But yesterday, Naz and Regan, I heard the DA mayor of Umgeni, a tiny little town in KZN, saying right here at Congress that there is apparently a wine region in Umgeni. Now, that is where I must call a point of order and say that I refuse to believe that there is a single successful wine region anywhere outside of the Western Cape.
Yeah, it's yours.
But I thought the mayor of Cape Town was going to talk about his wine of origin, Cape Town. But then I was going to have to come in and say, but don't forget about the Weskuswyne, because I mean they're amazing. Don't think about the old vine wines coming out of the Swartland. What about when you go over the mountain and you start to see what happens over the mountain in the Robertson areas or down in Hermanus and the coastal region of that, we're getting amazing wines. And then, of course, where I come from Knysna, but Plettenberg Bay, you can get amazing bubblies now in Plettenberg Bay. It's quite amazing. But this province, I agree with Jordan.
Yeah.
We punch way above our weight when it comes to our wines and our restaurants. I mean, we have got world-class restaurants. That's why tourism is such a big thing for us, but it's also such a big space of opportunity. And I think, as Mayor Gisi was saying, opportunity for young people to find jobs, whereas Solly's saying youth unemployment, a massive problem. I mean, these are the things that we've got to get right because we've got to change people's lives.
Yeah. Remember, 98% jobs created in the Western Cape. Let's not forget that.
But you can have that. You can have that in Gauteng. You can have that in KZN. You can have that in Eastern Cape with DA government.
I just have a slight suspicion. Earlier on, we said 169,000 jobs in South Africa, 167,000 in the Western Cape.
Yes.
Solly will confirm where the 2,000 is. I have a slight suspicion it might be in DA-led municipalities.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I've just heard, and we've just heard of the successes happening in the Western Cape. Thank you so much to all our panelists, but I'm hearing that Kwena has Retief Odendaal and Horatio Hendricks on the floor of Congress, who is going to tell us exactly what they are doing in the Eastern Cape. Kwena, what is happening down there?
Thank you, Naz. Thank you, Regan. Hello, South Africa. Kwena Moloto here, and I must say I am so excited to be here for day 2 of the DA Federal Congress. The energy has been absolutely electric. There's been singing, there's been dancing, there's been music, and currently delegates are voting on Congress resolutions. Now, as you can see, I'm currently with the Eastern Cape delegates because I'm with 2 very special people. I'm joined by 2 mayors who are waving the DA flag high in the Eastern Cape. I'm with the mayor of Nelson Mandela Bay, Retief Odendaal, as well as the mayor of Kocha Municipality, Horatio Hendricks. My mayors, how excited are you to be here today?
Wow, what a testimony to democracy in action. What you're seeing behind us is a party that governs for everyone. I don't think anyone can claim the diversity that the DA has. No party in this country can claim that. And I think we did about 82 amendments to our constitution yesterday. It went without a hitch. No chairs being thrown around, no jugs flying. The vibe is, you got it. The vibe is electric. There's hope in the air that we can be a party that can govern for the future and just govern better. So yeah, I'm privileged to be part of all of this.
And Retief?
Well, it's been an absolutely amazing Congress so far, the biggest Congress that the Democratic Alliance has ever held. And as we prepare to take over government in 2024, this is really a watershed moment for the Democratic Alliance.
Now, Retief, Horatio mentioned chairs, and obviously you've got quite a history with chairs. There's been images going around on social media of you fixing chairs in the Nelson Mandela Bay council chambers. You're clearly a very hands-on mayor. Were you here yesterday to assist with the setup of the chairs at Congress?
Well, absolutely not, because the DA knows how to organize, and there were it wasn't necessary for me to fix any chairs, they were all here. But I think it highlights how innovative we are in our councils, and that's the DA difference, trying to do things differently and trying to save the taxpayer money with everything that we do.
Thanks. And Retief, why is it so important for you to be a hands-on mayor?
Well, because at the end of the day, our governments have been broken down by ANC government over the last couple of years. Especially in the Eastern Cape, you can go around the province and you'll see that our municipalities have been broken down. They look like there's been civil war raging on there, and that is what the infrastructure looks like. So we have to do everything in our ability to get our municipalities working again, and therefore you have to micromanage your administrations and make sure that you get your municipalities working again.
The DA difference. Now, Horatio, Coca municipality was the first municipality that the DA took over in the Eastern Cape. How did you turn it around?
Mokona, you gotta take into account the ANC has been governing there for about 15 years. And the first thing that we noticed was that our reticulation system, and there's a water crisis, and similar to what is going through in Nelson Mandela Bay. When we took over in 2016, the ANC knew about this oncoming drought in 2010 already. We found them in the ICU. They were absolutely in a critical, dilapidated state. They never looked at reservoirs and increasing them. They never looked at fixing anything. They were just eating at the trough and just filling up Qaeda's pockets. When we took over in 2016, they had about 70 million rand cash in bank, but that was from a DBS loan. So basically they had no money. Within 18 months, we increased that cash in bank to over 200 million rand. And similar, Retief will tell you similar stories. And our 4% of our fleet were actually on the road. So if you had 100 vehicles, only 4 vehicles is on the road. How do you service your people without fleet? And within 2 years, our fleet is standing at about 250 strong. Over 90% of them is always on the road servicing our people. So that municipality was critical. And I think if you look at it today, 7 years down the line of DA governance, you will understand the DA difference. We believe in good governance. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in spending the public purse in a prudent way. And we're just taking Koga forward.
A municipality that was in the ICU that is now the best run municipality in the Eastern Cape. Now, in both of your municipalities, you're struggling with water shortages as a result of failings of the ANC national government. What are you doing to curb this issue?
Well, I think nowhere was that more evident than in Nelson Mandela Bay. There was a bulk water project that national government had to be completed by 2018 already. However, we only brought that project online October last year. That meant that as a result, we had to over-extract our dams, which actually brought day zero for Nelson Mandela Bay closer. That project has now finally been concluded, and the new coalition government in Nelson Mandela Bay has also managed to bring all of the outstanding drought mitigation and water augmentation projects online. We have now contributing an additional 100 megalitres of water to the reticulation service on a daily basis, which makes things a little bit easier in Nelson Mandela Bay. We are confident that under our coalition government there, we will certainly not run out of water because we are responsible and we take the difficult decisions and we plan. What I also need to say is that the council has now resolved in February that it will embark on a 10-year investment plan for our water services so that we can maintain and refurbish our aging water reticulation. It's a game changer for Nelson Mandela Bay insofar as ensuring that there will be water security for the next couple of decades.
Horatio?
Yeah, ever since 2018, we faced our first day zero. From that date, and we really started in 2019. We spent about 250 million rand just on finding and securing water. And it's not just about securing water, it's about sustainable water security. So future generations, 10, 20 years down the line, will never experience this drought again. So we've got about 30 balls productive in production right now. We're going to do 20 more. From that, almost 50 balls, we're going to secure about 60% of our water consumption. And that means we're a little bit independent of the Metro, who is supplying currently our water. We've got a leak detection vehicle that's state of the art that finds these leaks underground and we can fix them. In terms of finding water and cleaning it, you need to make sure that you give potable water and safe water to people. So it's useless finding water through 30 boreholes, but you can't clean them. We've installed 4 purification plants, also state of the art. They can deliver about 14 megaliters of water, clean water, and they are all in operation right now. So it's about being innovative. It's about looking at technology. We've got a relationship with Germany through our German partners, looking at the universities there, who's now looking at grey water and black water in our sanitation system and making sure that we got the proper water mix to make sure that we secure water. So it's about thinking forward. It's not just dealing with the drought now and finding water now, but making sure in the next 5 to 10 years we make sure that people are water friendly.
Wow. I'm hearing innovation, innovation, innovation in Kouga municipality. Can you tell me about some of the other innovative projects that you're implementing there?
How can you still ask? We got the first plastic road in Africa. In 2019, we bought a plastic road that I would like to refer to as an eco-friendly road. This road is a triple threat. So one, you can deal with waste plastic that ends up in your ocean. Secondly, it's labor intensive, so you're growing jobs in your local economy. And then thirdly, it's a stronger road. We've done it 3 years ago. You can go look at that road now. No donuts, please. Just go look at it. It's still going strong, no potholes. It is an absolutely, it withstands the weather, it withstands the heat. So we would like provincial and national government to log on to this and make sure that we roll out these roads all over. So we got the first plastic road in Africa. I spoke about the leak detection vehicle. It is state of the art. It was built in Germany and transported here at about 3 million rand. This was an absolute donation from the German government. It is currently, we would like to borrow this to Retief so he can also deal with some of the leaks that he's got there through our IJR process, not because they are also DA, but yes, we love you. And then, of course, the purification plants that I spoke of, it's also state of the art. This new technology that is here. So Kouga is a guinea pig. We would like to implement new technology and innovation, and that just grows our local economy and it just grows our response.
No, what a offer from Horatio. I really hope I see a plastic road in Nelson Mandela Bay soon. But we've been able to see the work that's being done in a Kouga municipality because the DA has an outright majority. What would you be able to do in Nelson Mandela Bay with an outright majority?
I think first of all, one must realize that it is so much easier to take a decision if you are an outright DA government. In Nelson Mandela Bay, we have a city that's got the highest unemployment rate of all metropolitan municipalities, the lowest GDP per capita. So it's really a poor metro. And we have to do everything in our ability to grow the economy. Therefore, we have to ensure that we have a sustainable water supply, that we've got a sustainable electricity supply amidst this energy crisis that we have. And if we are a outright DA government, it will just be so much easier to take the decisions and spend less time bickering over decisions that needs to be taken. In Nelson Mandela Bay, we've seen that there's been 5 coalition governments since 2016. It is time for stability in our city.
Thank you, Mayors. Before I let you go, what would be your final message to the residents of South Africa in the run-up to the 2024 elections?
Well, my message will be, you've seen the DA difference in DA-run Western Cape and in so many municipalities that the DA has run over the last couple of years. We've got a proven track record of delivery. We are the only alternative to the ANC, the only other party that can govern. And that is why you need to give your vote to the DA. That is the DA difference. We deliver services to all and we get things done.
Horatio?
Well, we are here to build a strong DA for a better future for all South Africans, representing the diversity you see in the background. We are ready to govern nationally. We want to take over that union building and give South Africans a better future. Don't vote for smaller parties. Retief said, if you want certainty in policy, if you want certainty in decisions, make sure that you vote for the DA because we govern better.
Wow, the DA is getting things done in the Eastern Cape. I'm so excited to be here with you for the rest of the day, bringing you exciting interviews with delegates and our leaders. Nasli Regan, back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much for that, Kwena. Exciting to see what is happening for the residents of the Eastern Cape.
For those who have just tuned in, we are live from Johannesburg at the DA's Federal Congress 2023 with the theme, A Strong DA to Build a Better Future. We are only a short while away from the current federal leader giving his address to Congress, John Steenhuisen.
Stay tuned as you do not want to miss it. Make sure to follow us on social media using the hashtag DA Congress 2023 and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell.
Now in studio, we are joined by our leaders from the north. Peter Teixeira, the mayor of Midvaal, the best run municipality in the Gauteng area.
Welcome, Peter.
The mayor of Modimolle Mokgopong municipality and our chief whip in parliament, Saviwe Gwagube, but also joining us is Solly Malatsi, our national spokesperson. Welcome, everyone. The atmosphere is really powerful here.
Yeah, it's so exciting to have you. Welcome, Peter. Marlene, I'll start with you. How excited are you about Congress?
Oh, I'm over the moon. It's been a fantastic 2 days today. Yeah. And look, it's electrifying. We've been enjoying ourselves. We're seeing some colleagues that we haven't seen in a very long time. And, you know, we're just waiting for the right moment to hear the news as who's going to take us forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been incredible. Since the first time I walked in here, it feels to me like the adrenaline, there's energy, there's a vibe. This morning when I walked in the gate, people were dancing. Well, I joined in the dancing as well because I just couldn't get rid of it. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah. And I think it's so good to also just have people gather again after COVID-19.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we couldn't see each other. And now to have the party in the same roof. And also just like, you know, getting that ges and seeing colleagues as you said, from around the country is really, really good. It's really good.
Yeah.
And we have over 2,000 delegates. Yeah. The most diverse political party in our entire country. And Marlene, I just want to confirm, I dance next to the beat. But we are getting involved. We are all contributing. But speaking about stuff that is bizarre, something bizarre happened when you were elected. Are you able to tell the viewers what happened?
Absolutely. I think the viewers will find this extremely interesting. In 2021, in our municipality, we actually had an exactly equal amount of votes to elect a mayor. 14 for the ANC and 14 for the other opposition parties that consisted of the DA, the Freedom Front Plus and the EFF. And after 4 attempts, something absolutely unique happened. And we had to get 2 pastors in, get a coin and flip a coin to decide who is going to be the mayor. And I still remember it so vividly because everybody was standing there. It was quiet. There were people praying. And the next moment that pastor flipped the coin. And then it landed on the floor and we all looked at the same time. Just like that. And then the lights went off. And we were like, oh no, it can't be.
Dramatic effect.
But then when the lights came back on, they congratulated and said, Marlene, congratulations. You are again elected as the mayor of the Modimolle Mokgopong municipality.
Marlene, I want to know whose coin was it that was flipped?
Well, it's actually the municipal manager took one out of his pocket. And the worst thing is it was a 1 rand coin. It wasn't even a 5 rand coin.
Wow. So you came to power through 1 rand.
Through 1 rand.
1 rand.
And every rand is being used in that municipality to now contribute towards service delivery.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But where's the coin?
So the coin, I got it framed and I gave it to John Steenhuisen to hang it in his office. And every so often, if colleagues that know me well visit John's office in Parliament, they sent me a quick selfie. Marlene, I'm seeing you in John's office.
Okay, so the next time we go to John's office, we need to take a group
Yes,
selfie
absolutely.
so we can send it to Marlene. But Peter, let's get into it. As the mayor of Midvaal, Midvaal is the longest DA government, 23 years.
Yes.
And it's a shining beacon of good governance, not only Gauteng, but in South Africa. How have we been able to achieve this?
Look, I've been very privileged in a sense that I've inherited a very stable institution. My predecessors did a very good job in terms of investing in bulk infrastructure development, which has seen a lot of investment into Midvaal. This is why we're one of the fastest growing municipalities in the country. And I think people want to associate with Midvaal because of its good track record over the years. I mean, we've received nine consecutive clean audits. We are rated by Ratings Africa every year as the most financially sustainable municipality in the country. So people are moving towards Midvaal, you know, residentially, business-wise. We're seeing a lot of investment into our municipality. Our unemployment rate is one of the lowest in the country. I mean, there's just so many things happening in Midvaal that is positive, and people just want to come through and be associated with Midvaal. And this shows also in our recent local government elections in 2021, where we actually received 63% of the vote. We went up from 2016, where it was 57 to 63%, and watch the space we are continuing going up.
Where the DA governs, whether it is from the city of Cape Town to Stellenbosch, or all the way to Kouga, or to Midvaal, or to small towns. But Liebe, you wanted to add?
Yes, I wanted to say that it's also I'm starting to realize that South Africans are starting to realize that there's an absolute direct correlation between how they vote and how they live. Because of course, when one looks at the very next door neighboring Mfuleni, right next to Midvaal, it's chalk and cheese. Midvaal is a shining beacon, as you said, of good governance, clean governance, where things are happening, whereas an Mfuleni is essentially just tanking. And now it's important that South Africans start to realize that how they vote will affect how they live.
Absolutely.
And so really well done to you and your team for ensuring that the people of Midvaal's voices of having voted for you means that they live better.
You can actually see the difference.
Something to what Siviwe mentioned. You know, things are so bad in ANC-led Mfuleni, right next to Midvaal, that we have to actually send our fire department to put out fires in Mfuleni.
Literally.
So yes,
Literally.
yes, we are servicing. You know, because we share a border, we're on the border of them.
Yes.
Waste doesn't get collected in the ANC-run Mfuleni municipality. So what do the residents do in Mfuleni? They take their waste over into Midvaal because they know that we will collect their waste.
But what those voters can do is that they can take their vote.
Exactly.
But we will open up something about where we see the decay, and sadly we often see it in our small towns, but not in Modimolle Mugapung, because there's a rock star mayor in Marlene, and you are talking about the whole of government approach and how you get communities involved. What is the secret and what do you do?
Well, the one thing that I have learned, especially after becoming the mayor in 2016, is that everything in the municipality evolves around the municipality, but there's no way that we can do it alone. So what we did was we started forming relationships with stakeholders. We were actually the first municipality in South Africa that signed a memorandum of understanding with AfriForum. And we've got a relationship with the business forums. We've got civil society groups like Action Innovation, Ryk Naboom Reg, organizations that want to be part of the municipality. And we make sure that we engage them regularly. We see our business people, we see our community members, but we also roll up our sleeves and we get in there ourselves and we make sure that things happen. Because if we all work together, we really feel that we can do more and we can do it faster.
Working together where we are all ultimately achieving more. But Madeleine, I need to ask, you are not an executive mayor. Why is that a problem?
Well, I think that is a very important question because in my municipality, like with all other local municipalities in Limpopo, I'm a mayor, I'm not an executive mayor, but we've got an executive committee system. Now, our executive committee system consists of 5 people, 2 from the ANC, 1 from the EFF, 1 from the Freedom Front, and I. So it means that we've got to take decisions. All of us need to agree. So I can't just take a decision and do whatever I like. I have to get all 5 of those people. And that's why I think managing a coalition government is challenging. And although I've done it for 6.5 years, it will never stop being a challenge because it means that item to item, policy to policy, service delivery to service delivery, we have to all agree in that committee to really make it happen. But we do make things happen in Modimolle.
Yes, you do.
Regan, earlier Marlene mentioned something, and I think that's something that's very visible. Marlene is from my home province. Midvaal is not my home province, but I'm able to see that both of them are very strong on being visible in the communities that they are leading. And I think it's an indication of leading with care, leading with compassion, because if your communities can access you and relate to you, that's when we can start shifting these narratives around how delivery improves the dignity of people and ultimately improves the quality of life.
Yeah.
So well done to both of you, because I follow both of them on Facebook, not to keep tabs, but just to see the work that they're doing. Yeah.
Absolutely, Charlie, you make a very good point, and I want to bring Siviwe into this. You know, we always speak about we want to take parliament to the people, just as these mayors are taking government to the people. Can you just speak a bit on why that's so important?
It's incredibly important, of course, because you'll recall that it's the decisions that are taken in Parliament, whether it's legislation, whether it's positions or resolutions, they have a direct impact on how municipalities are run. Even the budget that is passed. So when we have a budget that is passed, it is passed so that it can be divvied up to all municipalities. And that's why we keep a very close eye on whether or not money in COCTA in particular is spent well. Because we know that it affects even where we govern. Because the ANC may be in government at a national level, but at the end of the day, we know that from that big pot of national funds, that will also affect how our municipalities where we govern, which is about 38 different areas in the country. Can you believe it? Yeah. We are seriously a big party with a national footprint. Over 38 areas in South Africa are experiencing the DA difference. And so that's why it's very important that in Parliament we keep an eye on how money is spent and how money is allocated to local municipalities. Because I always say that local government is where the rubber hits the road.
Rubber hits the road.
Because that's the cold face of service delivery, where people are experiencing real governance difference there.
Yeah, talking about the DA difference, Madeleine and Peter, you guys have achieved so much already since the 2021 local government elections. Please make us all jealous and tell us what else do you have, what else are you still going to achieve?
Well, I think the one thing that for me and our municipality that's a big issue at the moment is the impact of load shedding. Yeah. And how can we counter that? Yeah. I mean, so the one thing that we've recently done, literally 3 days ago in a council meeting, we have approved a new small-scale embedded policy and tariff for people in our municipality to put up solar. The municipality will buy back that solar for them if they have extra, or we'll give credits. So we are really going to encourage our residents to come and apply to the municipality and get involved in our program. And we've also done a whole tender that we're putting out next week to make sure that we start up a solar plant at the municipality. We can counter load shedding. But we are also busy with tarring of our roads. We've got a big project, I think some of you have seen, and I mean, that's what you mentioned, that we're tarring the roads at the moment. I mean, I was there on the ground every day, looking what the contractors are doing, because, you know, it's a bit of an adrenaline rush if you see that tar hitting the road.
Yeah.
That's what you were talking about earlier.
You can feel it.
Yeah, well, you can feel it and you can see it, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're busy with the installation of LED lights, making our communities safer, but also decreasing the amount of electricity that we use by 60%. for all of our high mast lights and all of our street lights. And then we're focusing quite a lot on water and sanitation infrastructure. We've got projects of over 100 million rand that we are now going to invest into sustainable water supply for our residents.
Peter, tell us.
Yeah, look, on our side, obviously, very similar to Marlene, we're looking at alternative energy supply to be less reliant on Eskom. We will soon be having an energy summit where we're going to be calling a whole number of possible suppliers of renewable energy and so forth. But we're also we're also investing in new infrastructure, also investing in existing infrastructure, because I think that's what local government sort of forgets in terms of investing in your existing infrastructure, maintenance and so forth. And it's looking very exciting. As I mentioned to you earlier, we're seeing an influx of people coming from all over the country, moving to Midvaal, seeking for a better life. And we must ensure that we can keep up in terms of services. So water, sanitation, roads, potholes is not something we worry about in Midvaal. We're talking about reservoirs, new substations that we should be building, wastewater treatment plants to ensure that sewer doesn't flow into people's streets, into people's backyards.
He's going to start a competition again because he's making me think of all these things.
I'm starting that.
I think this is probably, the DA is probably the only party in South Africa that is able to have a competition about good service delivery.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the beauty of us seeing the successes, hearing of the plans still ahead, and if we can jump from Midvaal to Solly, mayors have come and gone in the Midvaal area, but the good work has continued. What does that mean in terms of the blueprint that the DA has been able to put in place in an area like Midvaal?
Yeah, and I think that's an important element, but that speaks to how the DA's governance is founded on the values of the party, and they are able to outlive different tenures of mayors. But it's also credit to those mayors because they have stuck to the plan, and we've gotten the right people in the right places. So it speaks to one of our values, fitness for purpose, and we've also focused on getting the basics right. As he said, he's now talking about big league stuff. Right? He's talking about infrastructure investment, and it's a consistent theme. In the last panel with Geordin and the Premier, they were talking about that. But of course, we gotta start small. In smaller towns, the focus is gotta be on the small, tangible things that you can do daily to start changing the legacy of disrepair that you have inherited from an ANC government. But more than that is we track our governments as the DA, and we make sure that they learn from each other, because best practice can exist in a small shining town like Mokopong and in a municipality like Midvaal. But also it speaks to the long-term partnerships, because the more successful you are, the more you are able to build those partnerships that you have with the private sector, and that's why you are able to attract those jobs. And I'm surprised you haven't spoken about the relationship Midvaal has in attracting Heineken, for instance, and the number of jobs it has created there.
Look, can I just add on that? I mean, the partnership with our businesses in Midvaal, I think it's something that is very important that we've mastered. And the ones that are actually assisting us in terms of reducing the unemployment rate in Midvaal. Because, a lot of people look to government to provide them with work and so forth. But the private sector also has an important role to play in terms of dealing with the high unemployment rate in the country. And our partnership with Heineken actually we've offered a number of incentives as Midvaal, and therefore their merger with Namibian breweries as well as the Stel will actually bring in the region of 10 billion rands into Midvaal. And that is something, thank you for reminding me, Solly. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh, wow.
And,
Getting a six-pack.
Yes. I mean, you look at it, Solly, the relationship I have with the managing director, Mr. Jody Brody from Heineken, we're like brothers. We speak daily.
Brilliant.
He's invested into Midvaal as well. They constructed a skills development center to the value of 2 million rand in an area called Savannah City.
That is incredible.
So this is the importance of actually partnering with the private sector.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I mean, this is so incredibly important because this reminds me of the story of Clover. Clover that was in the Northwest, where they had set up this business and it had been there for many, many years. And because the municipality was completely unable to get the basics right, get clean water, provision of roads, and just functioning electricity provision, all of the things which are basic. Remember, when the ordinary South Africans are asking for these things, they're not asking for too much. They are asking what is really, that is entitled to them. But that municipality was completely unable to provide that. Clover decided to close down its business. 3,000 jobs were lost. That's not just 3,000 individuals. That's 3,000 families. That is so many people who are affected by that. But when you are able to have good, functioning, clean government, you attract investment, business has confidence in your ability to deliver, regardless of who the mayor is. They know that because of your legacy of good governance, they will be able to run their business. And ultimately, they're able to offer employment opportunities for the citizens.
Solly, you were on the last panel, and we had the mayor of Stellenbosch and the mayor of Cape Town. And we had a little competition going on, and now we're seeing it again on this panel, and it's exciting me because, like you said, Siviwe, it's only in the DA where we compete for good governance. Can you just tell us what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think it's a healthy competition because it speaks about how our governments aspire to be better than each other,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And I think it's a very important element because we've got a governance unit, and our governance unit has a very important job in supporting our governance, but also making sure that, as I said earlier, there's best practice that we share across, but also that we keep our mayors accountable, which is a very important political ingredient that doesn't exist in other parties. And the result of that is we have these amazing mayors that are doing a great job, and that is an indicator to the communities that the DA delivers and the DA promotes excellence, and that excellent service delivery translates into a quality life where they live. And in the next election, and I hope that now that the people in Limpopo have seen what the DA government can do, we can start changing those doubts and people can start trusting in more DA governments.
Yes.
So we don't need a polling.
The one thing that I have seen, and I must be honest with you, Siviwe, you made me think of it. 2 weekends ago, I visited the Free State. Towns of Reitz, Heilbronn, Verlies, Frankfurt, Bethlehem. Honestly, I was shocked to see in what poor condition those towns are. But you know what was for me evident? I could not see any development. Like you drive through those towns, everything looks old and dilapidated. And that's one thing that I think is happening in Midvaal, but it's also happening in Modimolle. If you drive in our main street, you can see new things happening, new buildings going up, new developments, new people coming in. So you can see people want to invest in Modimolle. Things are happening the whole time. It really feels like we are growing our economies. And I think it's because we have this competition. I don't know if you guys know, but we recently changed the slogan of our municipality to say, we want to be a leading municipality in Limpopo. And the reason why we're saying that is we want to show to people in Limpopo, what is it like to live under a DA government? We are different from all the other municipalities that are run by the ANC in Limpopo. And you can see it if you drive into our towns. You can see it, you can physically see it.
Absolutely.
And I think the example that Siviwe was speaking about, just of how Clover left Tlokwe because of the collapsing infrastructure, and what Heineken is doing in there
Yes, exactly.
is that business responds to what government is doing. If they see that there is long-term planning, investing in infrastructure, and most importantly that there is ethical leadership, because the ethical leadership gives an indication to municipalities that their investments will be well looked after.
Yes, that's true.
But we also offers. Oh, sorry. We also offer incentives, Solly, to your possible investors. So during the construction phase, they do not pay for rates and taxes until such time they lay the first brick or they do the foundation. And this attracts investment into Midvaal. That's how we won Heineken, by the way, from Ekurhuleni. Initially, they were supposed to settle in Ekurhuleni. Ekurhuleni,
Okay.
but we said, here are the incentives that we are offering you. Come to Midvaal. Reliable water supply, which is a very important resource that they need. And we were able to give them a direct water line that's unique to Heineken that goes straight
To their plant.
into their plant.
Wow,
And
that's
this is why they were
impressive.
able to invest. So we offer these incentives to all potential investors and also even speak to existing investors. You know, there's a retention strategy as well.
Yeah.
We don't want people to leave.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Yeah, where the DA governs, we get things done. In just a few minutes, we will be crossing over live to the stage of Congress, where the current federal leader, John Steenhuisen, will be addressing the delegates and the rest of South Africa. Make sure to follow us on our social media pages, share, comment, like, use the hashtag DA Congress 2023. Siviwe, we've been speaking about the number of political challenges that many of our mayors in our municipalities face. But it's the same thing in Parliament, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, when Marlene was talking about the system of governance in Modimolle Mokgopong, where it has to be about consensus around different political parties. It for me just again reaffirmed the need for why we need a bigger mandate from our voters.
We do.
We need a bigger mandate from our voters if we're going to be able to do what we've been able to do in Midvaal. The story of Midvaal is only possible because the people of Midvaal made the decision. They gave the DA a full mandate. And now, 23 years later, the place is chalk and cheese with the rest of the country. So that's what we need in places like Modimolle, where people entrust us so that we can show them. Because what we've seen, and that's why we've introduced the bills to stabilize coalition governments. But what we've seen in coalition governments is that because they're unstable, is because there's too many people who are trying to be in the driver's seat. There's too many people who are trying to take us in different directions. But if people lend us their vote, then we can do to them, to their towns, what we've managed to do in Midvaal. So we're really asking people that next year, that they really, really back us so that we can be able to show you what it is to bring a DA difference in your town.
And just yesterday we heard that in Umgeni, it was by a mere 42 votes.
Yes,
Yes, but
yes.
42
votes. 42
So
votes.
each and every vote is so important.
Absolutely.
Solly, your view on getting our young people involved to actually vote, but why would it be important next year?
Yeah, it's absolutely important, apart from being a civic right, is about playing a fundamental role in deciding who governs you. And there are a lot of South Africans that are not registered to vote.
Yes.
And that is why the DA has instructed, all our party structures to make sure that we go out and register unregistered voters in our wards. But most importantly, to make sure that they are registered in the areas where they live. Because it is very important that we start looking after our towns and taking care of our responsibilities as responsible citizens in voting, because we need those votes in order to bring the change. Right? People complain that services are poor and all of that. By voting, you increase the chances of removing a government that is underperforming, that is keeping your town in despair, and opening the door for an opportunity for a better government.
Absolutely.
Because one of the scariest things is the majority of people who qualified to vote in the last election, national election, but didn't vote, were more than the total number of people that voted.
I know, that's scary.
And that just tells you that they could have formed a government of their own, and it didn't happen. And that is where the potential is, and that is where the DA is looking forward into getting new voters. First-time voters are the most important market for us, because they do not have that baggage from the history of our country. But they are the ones that can be the change makers in bringing a new form of government that the 8 other provinces have never felt, and that is the DA government.
And you see, they may not have the baggage of our painful past, but if they don't get up and vote and really chart the way forward for our country, they will have the baggage of 2023, the baggage of a bad ANC government. And that's why we need young people to take charge. Because it's our country, and it will be on our hands that it goes,
I can't agree with you more, Siviwe. We're moments away from the speech by John Steenhuisen, our current leader of the party. Can you tell us why is John giving his speech, just so that viewers at home understand what's happening here at Congress?
So, as an incumbent, it's important. Remember, the federal leader, John Steenhuisen, would have said to delegates back in 2020 what it is that he seeks to do for the next 3 years. He would have presented his plan to the party. And so, because we're a party that believes in internal democracy, we're a party that believes in accountability, he now needs to account to the delegates to say, I promised this, and this is what I've delivered against. Because you see, we unlike other political parties, I don't want to mention names.
Don't please don't. Very much.
But unlike other political parties, you know, people are not just self-chosen, you know? It's not a coronation. It's an election.
Correct.
And when you've been elected, you've been entrusted with a responsibility. And once you've been entrusted by a responsibility, then you must account. When we lend you our vote, what have you done with it?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So before we go and hear John Steenhuisen's speech, we've gotten some questions from our viewers, and they want to know, what is it like in a day of the life of a mayor? So what is your day like?
It's hectic. For me, in Midvaal, it starts very early. You know, there's a lot of oversight, a lot of site visits on the ground. I'm like Thomas in the Bible, so I don't just believe anything that is told or said to me by the officials. I want to see it myself. So there's a lot of groundwork. I go down to site a lot. And and we, you know, obviously the administrative part, but it's a lot of groundwork, engaging with the public, talking to the people. We do a whole lot of public engagements in Midvaal. That's something that we don't compromise on. So we go to the people, no matter how difficult it gets, but we go to the people, we engage, we take their input, and we implement.
Yeah, on the ground,
So,
all the time.
so that's 16, 17 hours a day.
I'm telling you, it feels like that. My children even can't remember my name when I get
I want to ask our mayors if do you have, Peter, your own special scissors for when you go and cut ribbons? Do you keep your own scissors?
Do you have it in a box?
It's a gold one. It's a gold one.
Okay, all right, okay. I just wanted to find out.
But I want to start my answer with a story.
Okay.
When I became the mayor in 2016, I was elected on a Thursday. And it was quite a controversial thing in any case. So the Friday, I thought, let me just stay home and just think about it a little bit. But I phoned the municipality and I found out, like, what is the office hours? They said, no, it's 7:30 to 4:15. So the Monday morning, I arrived 7:30 at the municipality and I stayed until 4:15. Met my secretary, saw the office, and then I went Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. By the Friday morning, when I walked in, the employee said, what are you doing here? Like, I work here. I work here. So they say, no, you don't work here. I said, oh, okay, maybe you don't know. Sorry, my name is Marlene van Staden. I was elected the mayor last week. I work here now. No, mayors don't work. Like, no, you joke, right? No, of course we work. I said, no, mayors don't work. I said, what did the previous mayor do? I said, oh, we saw maybe 4 times a year when she came to sign the agenda.
4 times a year?
To sign the agenda?
Yes, to sign an exco agenda. Yes, exco agenda. So I said, like, but what did she do the rest of the time? Like, nobody knows. I'm like, but you really don't have to come to work here. So I decided from my side, I want to know everything that happens in that municipality. And if there's a project, I want to be on the ground. And if there's a public meeting, I'll be there. And if anybody wants to see me, a stakeholder, I got to be there and I have to meet them and I have to make time for the people of this municipality. And in between, I also have to make time to communicate because, I mean, I'm good on social media and I wanted to show people in Limpopo, what does a mayor do? What does mayors do? Nobody knows. So on my social media, I do get sometimes people that say, the only thing you do is take pictures. I'm like, okay, so but if I don't take pictures, then you ask me, where are you? Or what do you do? So I at least try to show them, where am I? What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I see? What is important? But I absolutely agree with Peter to say that it is impossible to work less than 12 to 15 hours a day. Because we also do public meetings at night. We do DA work on weekends. We do municipality work in the day. We have to read documents at night. I mean, people don't realize the amount of work a mayor has to do.
Yes.
There's nothing glamorous about our jobs. We are servants of the people in our community, and we make sure we know everything about what is happening in the municipality.
Absolutely.
We are working towards a stronger DA for a better South Africa. Thank you so much to everyone. Please
Thank
keep
you.
up the good work. We are so happy that you
So
are here
proud.
and so proud of you. Well, here we are. It is now time for our current DA federal leader, John Steenhuisen, to address the people of South Africa and Congress. The vibe is already electrifying behind me. Please stay tuned, and we will see you right here after the speech.
Viva TL, viva! Viva! Selector, let's go. Arriba sharp. Let's do that. Who is a selector? Aye, TA, aye. Aye, TA, aye. Viva, TA, viva! Viva! Hoi, hoi! Hoi, hoi! Hoi, hoi! Hoi, hoi, kancane sekusele kancane kancane sizophumelela sekusele kancane sekusele kancane kancane sekusele kancane ay sekusele kancane sekusele kancane kancane sizophumelela ay sekusele kancane ayeye nginithanda nonke emakhaya nginithanda nonke emakhaya nginithanda nonke emakhaya. Selector kancane, play the song. Let's do that. Assembly. There we go. What's up? Chuma. Are you happy to be here? What's up? What's up? 2024 sekusele kancane sizophumelela. 2024 sekusele kancane sizophumelela. Feel tot. Baie stille plek. Iman, boom tot.
Thank you, Democrats. I love our party and I love each and every one of you. Thank you for that wonderful, wonderful warm welcome. Democrats, what a time to be involved in South African politics. And what a time to be involved in the DA. For several elections now, we've spoken about the political change that's going to take place in South Africa. A change that we now all know is inevitable. For the past decade, we've hinted at it, predicted it, and many of us have even spoken about it. And we've spoken about the possibility of it happening in every year's election. But I can feel it in my bones and I can feel it in my political waters that this time it's different. These shifts that we're seeing today, the undeniable implosion of the ANC, the collapse of splinter parties like COPE, who were once thought of as the real contenders. We've seen the impotent and empty rage of the economic freedom fighters, and the explosion of all sorts of new small parties made up of disgruntled and disillusioned South Africans. But the ANC's decline is now terminal. And the question is now, how fast? If this decline in support can be accelerated up until the election and then held there, and as they roll out their squeeze campaign, we will see the end of the African National Congress in 2024. What that means is that every single person in this room stands to make history next year. Democrats, we will have the privilege and the massive responsibility to be the first party in South Africa in 75 years to go from opposition into a leading role in government. And our country has not experienced this until since the National Party won its first election all the way back in 1948. For the next 46 years, no one really challenged them in elections. And this was then followed by 29 years of uninterrupted ANC rule. 3/4 of a century of one-party rule has been disastrous for our country. Because a ruling party that doesn't fear an electorate, that doesn't fear the outcome of an election, is a very dangerous beast. It acts with impunity and it turns on its people. And we saw this with both the Nats and with the ANC. But next year, Democrats, we have a chance to change that story. We have a chance to put to the test for the first time in the history of our democracy the most fundamental aspect of our Constitution, a peaceful change of government through the democratic vote of its citizens. And I hope that you all realize, sitting in this conference hall today, just how big a momentous moment this is, and what this responsibility places on each and every one of us in the DA. Because while there'll be many more parties on the ballot paper than ever before, it's becoming increasingly clear to everybody that this is a two-horse race. Even without outright majorities, there's only one of two parties in the country that it can emerge at the center of a coalition government. And that is either the DA or the ANC. And I know which one I want, and I hope you do too. Democrats, that is the reality. That is the reality of what faces our country today. But I also need you to realize that we enter into these elections in this strong position, not by default or by some accident, but because some very bold decisions were taken at a time when things looked much worse for our party. And then all of us worked very hard to put ourselves in the position we find ourselves today. And just take a look around you in this conference hall. This Democrats in this hall represents the very best of South Africa. And the position that we will leave this Congress Hall at the end of this weekend was not a given. 4 years ago, we had just emerged from our first ever election, where we had lost ground. Up until 2019, we were proud to display the DA's growth in election after election on graphs. That arrow was always pointing up to the sky, and we did our calculations, and we predicted where that upward arrows would be and where it would meet the ANC's downward arrow. We were buoyant and we were bold in those predictions. But then 2019 happened. And for the very first time, that graph wasn't something that we wanted to show the world. We kept up a brave face, but even internally, I know that there were some who had doubts about the future of the party. But this was nothing compared to externally. For non-DA voters and increasingly a hostile press, we were as good as dead. By the end of the 2019, following the release of our review panel report and the exit of several high-profile leaders, many wasted no time in penning our obituary. Internally, however, we knew, even before we had read the review panel report, that our electoral problems and troubles were as a result of us having become untethered from our core values and our liberal principles. We knew that in trying to dabble in identity politics and watered down aspects of policies of parties like the ANC, in an effort to try and be a bit of everything to everybody, we had given up on our very strong, very clear identity that had sustained us for decades, even through the darkest days of apartheid. And in politics, that is suicide. But externally, the problem was diagnosed very, very differently. Some in the media said that it was because we hadn't gone far enough in appropriating the ANC's stance on race and the ANC's policies on redress. And if we didn't adopt the ANC stance, we were doomed. If only the DA could be a better ANC, it would win the elections comfortably, was the central message of the analysis. And everywhere people were writing off the DA. They were speculating about who would replace us as the official opposition, and how soon, and what the country's coalition prospects would look like once the DA had just faded away. Some were predicting even that some of the departing leaders of the DA would go on to replace the DA with their new movements and platforms and dialogues. According to Ipsos at that time, the DA was polling at just 16%. And nobody saw us coming back from that. That, colleagues, was the DA I inherited when I put my hand up to lead this party as the interim federal leader in October 2019. It was a party in electoral decline. It was a party that struggled to define its values, a party with no clear ideological position on just about any issue, and a party that had committed the number one cardinal sin in politics and taken voters for granted. The DA was a party at a crossroads. It could follow the advice of the external critics, or we could try to rediscover the party that we once were. And looking back now, it seems so obvious. But at the time, it wasn't so clear-cut for everybody. But I knew, and so did everyone who I trusted and listened to, that the only way to resuscitate the DA and to save South Africa, the only way to get that arrow pointing up in the right direction on the graph, was by ignoring the naysayers and critics and seeking out our values. We'd have to learn to grow a thick skin when it came to critique in the media and other voices outside the party. People always seemed to be so incredibly convinced and concerned about the fate of the DA, but had no intention of ever voting for us. We'd have to learn to trust our own instincts and shut out the noise from the outside, because we knew there would be a lot of noise. We'd have to make a firm commitment to the core values of our party: non-racialism, respect for the rule of law and the Constitution, the power of a market economy to create jobs and lift people out of poverty, and building a capable state free of corruption and cadre deployment. And when I say make a commitment to these values, I mean in action, not just words. It's easy to say the world that you believe in it's easy to say to the world that you believe in non-racialism, but it's another thing to actually have the guts to stand up to the growing populist trend of racializing laws and of racializing society and re-racializing South Africa. We'd also have to learn to have the discipline to pick our battles and then remain fundamentally disciplined in all of our messaging. Now, our country is facing a multitude of crises, and life for the poorest of our citizens has become so incredibly hard. If we wanted the DA to be effective and relevant, we'd have to learn to pick the issues by the impact that they would have on the lives of ordinary South Africans, and particularly vulnerable South Africans, and then not allow ourselves to be distracted from these issues by the news cycle of that day. Now again, it's a lot easier said than done. The cut and thrust of politics, particularly in today's fast-moving online social media world, is designed to pull you into arguments and disputes. Before you know it, you're fighting on an issue that is nowhere near the thing that you said that you wanted to focus on. But I knew that we'd have to show incredible issue and message discipline if we wanted to make an impact and prove to South Africans that the DA is the only party fighting for the things that really matter in their lives. So that was my mission and mandate. Anchor the DA to its values amid all the noise and critique, and then to keep the DA on message and on the big issues. That's how we would ultimately prove to the doubters that they were wrong, to turn the DA around and claw back all the ground we had lost, not only in the 2019 elections, but also in the subsequent years as this break in our momentum continued to affect us in by-elections. And I'm delighted to report that the most accurate polling numbers available to us indicate that we've managed to do all of this and more. Consider that in October of 2019, the DA's support stood at just 17%. At that time, the ANC's was sitting at 59%. Today, our support stands at 26%, and the ANC's has fallen to around 40%. That is a massive reversal. But just as important as our support turnaround these past 4 years has been, The way in which the DA has consistently driven the issues that really matter has made all the difference. We've spent the past 4 years setting the agenda on all the biggest stories, from poverty and on the cost of living to crime and law and order. And we did so throughout a pandemic lockdown when other parties could barely operate. Wasn't that an amazing achievement, colleagues? Our issue driving on the cost of living crisis particularly managed to change the narrative in the country and to connect the seemingly unrelated dots to show what has caused food and fuel prices to spiral out of control. And I'm incredibly proud of the work done on this issue by DA structures and DA teams around the country in fighting relentlessly and single-mindedly for poor people who often found themselves powerless against wave of price increase. You've shown South Africa where the DA's priorities lie. You have shown the parties where our party's heart lies. And I tell you, colleagues, people will not forget that. Now, of course, this fight hasn't been won yet, but we are in the ring, fighting for zero rating of food products, fighting for fuel levies to be cut, fighting for dignity for poor and hungry South Africans. Just as we were the only and first party in KZN when communities were under siege from rioters. Well done, KZN. Just as we were the only party fighting to protect South Africans from load shedding through credible, practical solutions. Well done, DA governments. Just as we were the only party condemning the Russian invasion of Ukraine and raising right at the beginning the impact of what this invasion would have on poverty here in South Africa, on our continent. Those are fights that matter, and those were our fights. They were our fights, and people will not forget it. That's why it's no accident or fluke that we enter this election campaign period in a strong position, almost 12 percentage points up from our low 4 years ago. We worked to be in this position. You worked to be in this position. Cheers. And I want to give particular recognition to our DA mayors and their teams around the country who are doing a phenomenal job of demonstrating the clear blue water between DA governments and those rotten administrations run by the ANC. Against this backdrop and sea of decline and decay in ANC-run towns and cities, our mayors, our MACOs, our teams, our councillors, and all other talented people in our party are demonstrating what a million words could never begin to say. Every government success achieved in these towns and cities shows the rest of South Africa what can be done under a government that cares and a government that works hard for the people of South Africa and not for the politicians. And I am delighted that we can now add the name of Mayor Cilliers Brink to this illustrious list. Now, he was a big loss to our DA National Caucus, but he's an even bigger gain for the people of Tshwane. But I can't mention Tshwane and I can't mention the other Gauteng metros without pausing for a moment on the topic of coalitions. Because this is something that's certainly going to be a big part of our election story next year. And the events of the past few years in Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni, and also in Tshwane, have taught us some incredibly valuable lessons. Many of these lessons were around the importance of principles in coalition governments, and how you can never sacrifice these principles just for the sake of power. But an equally important lesson we learned was around the composition of coalition governments. If you look at the difference between the relatively stable Tshwane and perpetually unstable Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni, it comes down to a number of parties represented in coalition. In Tshwane, we have a majority coalition made up of just 4 parties. In the other Gauteng metros, we have minority governments with up to 10 parties in each. This is why our excellent Chief Whip in the National Assembly, Siviwe Gwarube, is working hard on a number of bills aimed at solving these issues around too many splinter parties disrupting coalition governments. And that has to be at the back of our mind throughout our election campaign. We don't just simply want to bring the ANC below 50%. We want to end up at the center of a coalition government that is able to serve South Africans. Now, I know this is possible. I know this party, and most of all, I know what we are capable of. So Democrats, don't listen to the naysayers if they tell you it can't be done, if they tell you that coalitions can't work. These are the same people who told you the DA was dead and buried and kyk hoe lyk ons nou. To quote Mark Twain from a cable he sent from London to the press in the United States after an obituary had been mistakenly published, and I quote, "The reports of my death are greatly exaggerated," unquote. And just as the reports of the DA's death back in 2019 turned out to be so greatly exaggerated, any reports now of writing off workable coalition governments after 2024 are equally mistaken. But as long as it is DA values, DA policies, and most importantly, DA people that sit at the heart of such coalition government, we have an excellent chance of turning South Africa around and giving the people of this country a future worth fighting for. Democrats, it's been the singular biggest honor of my life that you bestowed upon me to lead this party over these last 3 years. And whatever happens today in the voting, I will cherish these 3 years as the greatest time of my life. And that is largely due to the fact that every single day of those last 3 years, I've had the opportunity to work with all of you, side by side in the trenches, fighting the good fight, never giving up, and never stopping to fight for the people of South Africa. South Africa needs a strong DA to build a better future. Our Congress has shown them that we are ready. It's time to get out there, win those votes to build a better future. Thank you.
remain seated for our last few resolutions, please take up your seats and prepare to vote. We have business to do.
This is the 2023 Federal Congress of the Democratic Alliance. Only a strong DA can uphold the values of freedom, fairness, opportunity, and diversity. A strong DA to build a better future. Welcome to the Democratic Alliance's Federal Congress.
Welcome back, fellow Democrats. That was the current DA federal leader, John Steenhuisen, with his address to the delegates and to South Africa.
If you have just joined us, you are watching the DA's Federal Congress 2023, where the theme is a stronger DA to build a better future. We are coming to you live from Johannesburg with our panelists Solly, Carly, Cabello, and the amazing Saviwe. Saviwe, if I can jump straight to you.
Yes.
What are the key takeaways? The crowd was pumped. Key takeaways from John's speech.
Firstly, the first key takeaway, I think, was our Congress song, Sekusele Kancane until 2024. But more importantly, I suppose, is some of the issues that John has raised are some of the key issues that are facing South Africa, particularly when one looks at joblessness, when one looks at the crippling rising cost of living crisis, when one looks at the fact that 30 million South Africans, over 50% of South Africans, are living in poverty. And ultimately, whether or not we can accept the challenge, a stronger DA is going to mean that we are able to effect the kind of change that we need, that is so desperately needed in South Africa. And so I suppose his report back to the delegates was about how we have led the fight and been at the forefront of fighting for the people of South Africa when they've long been forgotten by their government.
Yeah, if I can add to that, something that stood out to me was the fact that, as John said, in 2019 the media said the DA is dead, we will never recover, we need a new official opposition party. But we can clearly see the support growing and how people are backing the DA. We are back to winning ways, and that excites me for 2024.
Yeah, it excites all of us, especially here at Congress. I mean, the crowd went crazy when we were singing our song. It was so much fun. Cabello, can you let the viewers at home know what's coming up next? What's still to come?
Yeah, we are now going into the second round of resolutions, a very important thing that we are doing to shape our policies. And we are also going to have later on the announcement of the outcomes of the elections from this morning of the new federal leadership. So Lee is also part of the candidates.
We are side-eyeing him here.
And we're also going to have the maiden address from the new federal leader. So that's what's coming up this after this.
So exciting.
Solly, I trust that your nerves are feeling okay, but we have heard Cabello talk about resolutions. Are you able to explain to us the difference between a constitutional amendment and the importance of the resolutions?
Yeah, it's a very important distinction that I think it's useful for everyone joining on this broadcast. A constitutional amendment is, in effect, a change or an adaptation of a constitutional clause. So constitutional amendments speak entirely to the constitution of the DA. The resolutions are declarations of policy intent. So basically, it outlines where it proposes what the DA's position on any specific matter should be, whether it's farm matters as they are currently discussing, or it's on education, or it's on the war in Ukraine. So that is just like a very direct declaration of policy
Solly,
intent.
I have to stop you. I'm sorry. I am going to have to stop everybody right here because I'm told in my ear here that Winde has managed to get a hold of John Steenhuisen to get his thoughts on Congress 2023. Let's cross over live to Winde to find out. Winde?
Thank you, Naz. Thank you, Regan. I'm here on the Congress floor, and I must tell you that the atmosphere is absolutely electric after the speech from our current DA federal leader, John Steenhuisen. Over the course of his term, he didn't just invigorate this crowd, he's reinvigorated this party. John, how do you feel about Congress so far?
Yeah, I think it's been great. It's been really amazing to see the energy and the drive of this party. This is a party that's serious about taking control in the country and to getting a government in place that's going to work for the people of South Africa, not the politicians. I think South Africans, many of them find themselves in a hopeless place, unemployment, crime and corruption, maladministration, poor service delivery, can look at this Congress and see there is hope for South Africa. There is a better future that awaits the country, and that future is a blue future under the DA.
Okay. And John, how would you describe your term as federal leader?
It's been tough. It's been tough. It's tough to inherit a party where the leaders walked off the job, and trashed the party on the way out. There's very few parties in the world that survive something like that. But look at us here today. Look at us. A party that's reinvigorated and rejuvenated and ready to take on the challenges on the behalf of the people of South Africa. And it hasn't been easy. We had to find our ideological rooting again. We had to go back to a policy platform, and we had to be able to have some ideas about how we could help the people at home, because those are the people that matter the most. The people watching this broadcast are the people that matter most in a democracy. And I think that it's been a tough journey, but thank you to South Africans for standing by us and throwing your support behind us. And thank you too to Democrats, activists across the country, our public representatives, who've all been responsible as a team working with me to turn this party around.
John, now you've been at the forefront against the rising cost of living. Why is this issue so important?
The issue is very important because, as I'm sure many across the country and many of those watching at home can attest, life is getting harder for far too many South Africans. 82% of our families skip a meal a day because they simply can't afford the food. We've seen a massive rise in cost of food prices. We've seen interest rates rising. Many South Africans are wondering about their future. Are they going to be able to keep a roof over their head? Are they going to be able to keep their children's future secure? And I think that what they can take hope from is our fight. We're on their side. We're on the side of the voters and the public at home. And that's why we've been fighting VAT on a variety of foodstuffs, particularly those that a basket of goods that poor households use: bone and chicken, pasta, coffee, baby formula, and so many others. We've also called on government to drop the import tariffs on bone-in chicken, because this is a great source of protein, particularly for our families. And then to drop the import tariff on pasta so that we can make sure that more families are able to feed themselves. And of course, cutting the petrol price so that we can drive down the means that are driving up the cost of living in South Africa. And at every step of the way, I want to assure the people at home, this is a party that is on your side. This is a party that gets up every morning fighting for you. And we will never, ever turn our back or walk out on the people of South Africa like the ANC has done.
John, for the viewers at home, why should they put their X next to the DA in the 2024 elections?
It's a time for the choosing. You may have voted for other parties before. They've turned their back on you. Now is your shot to be able to change the trajectory of South Africa forever. We can continue on this current path of unemployment, of despair, of poverty and hunger. We can continue to witness young children dying in indignity in pit latrines across the country. We can continue to witness cabinet ministers living like rock stars in mansions with 8 billion rand being spent every year on their security. Or you can choose a different path for our country, a different path for your family, and a different path for our country. And that path has to be by consolidating against the only party that can bring the ANC below 50%, stop the EFF, and build a better future for all of us. It's a no-brainer. You've got to get behind our party. We're ready for government. We're serious about it. We need your support. Stand with us as we change South Africa forever.
Thank you so much, John. That was our DA federal leader, John Vuligate. Back to you, Naz and Regan in the studio.
There you have it, South Africa. It's a no-brainer. We have also realized that how important it is to vote. But sadly, we have come to the end of this morning's broadcast. But fear not, we will be back here at 1:30 take you through the final moments of Congress 2023. The all-important announcement of our DA leadership is still coming up.
So, panel, Regan, I managed to get my hands on something top
What is that?
secret. Sorry, don't stress too much.
The moment of
Regan,
truth.
what do you think it is?
I just want to feel it. It feels like a solid team that has been elected.
Is that the feeling? The feeling?
It's a solid team to take us forward.
Should we open
Can you
it?
please open
Should
it?
we open it?
Paramedics on standby.
Sorry, please. Okay, are you ready? Can I get a drum roll, please?
Please.
Give me a drum roll. Psych! You have to join us at 1:30, sharp o'clock, back on this broadcast to ensure that you find out who our leadership is. Sorry, Solly.
got us there.
That's it from us here in studio. See you at 1:30, sharp and away.
Away.
Thanks for watching. Like and follow our page on Facebook. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell. Please like and share our videos with your friends and family. Join the DA. Join the fight to save South Africa.